In July 1518, one woman danced. By August, 400 had joined her. By September, they were dying. The Free Imperial City of Strasbourg recorded it in its official archives. R3, folio 72. The city physicians were consulted. The city council convened. No cause was found. No poison. No infection. No heresy. File designation, human, V. CR 001. Classification, historical. Status, closed, without resolution. The official record survives. The explanation does not. This is not a ghost story. This is a municipal document. What it described should not have been possible. It happened anyway. Authorities ordered stages built so the afflicted could dance themselves out. Musicians were hired. The dancing did not stop. It spread. This is the file of the summer Strasbourg danced itself to death. The first recorded dancer was a woman. Later chronicles name her Frau Trophia. On July 14, 1518, she began to dance in a narrow street near the center of Strasbourg. She did not stop. Witnesses said she danced for 6 days, collapsing, rising, continuing. Within a week, more than 30 others joined her. By late August, contemporary estimates ranged from 50 to 400 dancers. Some accounts describe 15 deaths a day at the peak. The city's contemporary records do not confirm the fatalities. The city's responses are confirmed. The council consulted physicians. The physicians diagnosed hot blood. They prescribed more dancing. The council built a wooden stage in the horse market. Musicians were hired. Guild halls were open for the dancers to continue. It did not work. The mania spread. In early September 1518, the afflicted were taken to a shrine of Saint Vitus in the Vosges Mountains. The dancing then began, slowly, to stop. The first modern explanation is medical. Mass psychogenic illness. The historian John Waller laid out the strongest version in 2008 and 2009, in The Lancet and in a full-length book. The population of Strasbourg in 1518, he argued, was already breaking. The harvests of 1516 and 1517 had failed. The bread price had passed what the poor could pay. Smallpox was in the city. Syphilis was new, frightening, and untreatable. The English sweat killed in hours. The Protestant Reformation had begun 9 months earlier, on the far side of the empire. Political stability in the region was eroding. Waller called this a climate of extreme psychological stress. In such a climate, he wrote, a single belief can become epidemic. Strasbourg believed. It believed that Saint Vitus could curse the impious with uncontrollable dancing. The woman started. The belief spread faster than the disease. The ones who danced were, by Waller's account, in a trance state. That is the strongest version. There is a weakness. Trance states do not kill. The second explanation is chemical. Ergotism. Ergot is a fungus. Claviceps purpurea. It grows on damp rye. Eaten in contaminated bread, it causes convulsions, burning in the limbs, hallucinations. In the 20th century, some researchers proposed that contaminated rye harvested in the wet seasons before 1518 had entered the Strasbourg food supply. The symptoms, on the surface, fit. The dancers shook. They saw visions. They were poor, eating whatever grain they could afford. It was not a clean fit. John Waller raised 3 objections. First, ergot constricts blood flow to the extremities. Victims of ergotism often cannot stand. They cannot dance for days. Second, a contaminated grain supply would not produce identical reactions across hundreds of different bodies. Third, and strongest, every major European dancing epidemic between 1374 and 1518 occurred along the Rhine or the Moselle rivers. Those regions shared water routes, not climates, not crops. An ergot outbreak does not travel by river trade. A belief does. The theory remains in the file. It has not closed it. The third explanation is religious. It is also the oldest. In 1518, Strasbourg and the surrounding Rhineland shared a specific belief. Saint Vitus, a 4th-century martyr, was both the patron of dancers and epileptics and the source of the dancing affliction. Those who displeased him, it was said, would be cursed with the compulsion to dance. The affliction had a name in the region long before 1518. Saint Vitus's dance. Saint John's dance. The belief was not fringe. It was mainstream regional Catholicism. The historian John Waller argues this cultural template is what turned local stress into an epidemic of this specific shape. The people of Strasbourg were already frightened. When one woman began to dance, it did not look like mental illness. It looked like something they had all been warned about. The cure was not medical. It was pilgrimage. That is why Strasbourg sent its dancers to a Saint Vitus shrine in the Vosges Mountains. That is, by contemporary accounts, when the dancing slowly stopped. The church's cure, for whatever reason, worked. 3 explanations. None of them closes the file. Mass psychogenic illness explains the trigger and the spread. It does not explain the deaths, if the later chronicles are true. It does not explain why the pattern appeared here, in this city, in this summer, and did not return after. Ergot explains some symptoms. It does not explain the geography. It does not explain the duration. It does not explain why no one else in the food supply, the wealthy, the clergy, the merchants, were recorded as afflicted. Saint Vitus explains the cultural shape. It does not explain the physical collapse. It does not explain why the belief, which had existed for centuries, produced a measurable outbreak in 1518 and not before, not after. There is also the smaller question. Why Frau Trophia? The chronicles say she had argued with her husband. That is all. One woman, one street, one bad day. What followed was a municipal emergency recorded in a free city's official archives. The official record survives. The explanation does not. Strasbourg was not the first. On June 24, 1374, in Aachen, a dancing outbreak began on the feast of St. John. It spread along the Rhine to Cologne, to Metz, to Flanders. Contemporary chroniclers described hundreds moving in trance, hallucinating, crying out the names of devils, recoiling from pointed shoes and from the color red. In 1247, a group of children was recorded dancing the 20 kilometers from Erfurt to Arnstadt without stopping. In 1278, some 200 people danced on a bridge over the river Meuse until the bridge collapsed. In Trier, in 1467, another outbreak. The earliest recorded case is Kalbach, 1021, though later historians consider parts of that account possibly apocryphal. In the 17th century, the phenomenon faded. By the 18th century, it was gone. Every known outbreak, without exception, occurred in Europe. Most occurred along a narrow corridor of the Rhine and the Moselle. A specific landscape. A specific belief. A specific kind of suffering. Strasbourg 1518 is the most thoroughly documented case. It is not the only one. Strasbourg's official record ends in September 1518. The dancing stopped. The dead, if there were dead, were buried. The municipal council returned to other business. The file closed. For 3 centuries, it was forgotten. Modern medicine revived it. Historians revived it. Waller called it the most extraordinary documented case of mass psychogenic illness in the Western record. Others still argue for the fungus. Others still argue for the saint. No single account covers all of it. File designation, human, v. CR 001. Classification, historical. Danger level, historical. Pattern, documented in Europe from at least 1021 to 1518. Reason for termination, unknown. Likelihood of recurrence, unknown. The Free Imperial City of Strasbourg remains a city. The square where they built the stage remains a square. The archives remain in the archives. This is the file of the summer they danced. The official record is preserved. The explanation was not. End of file, cross-reference. 7 European dancing epidemics preceded Strasbourg 1518. Nearly all occurred along the Rhine and Moselle rivers. The pattern did not begin in 1518. It ended there. End of file.